In a world full of ranking systems, what would be the top 5 destructive cults at the moment? Well, I can tell you the top 5 that might be on my mind or on my radar. And I think I will say, and this maybe gives me an opportunity to rant a little bit. But I don't really want to rant. But I do want to say that the whole anti-vax thing right now is, as far as I'm concerned, a destructive anti-science cult. And I understand that there are people who are trying to be critical thinkers, who are trying to be cautious, who are trying to be science aware and medicine aware, and are trying to be thoughtful about what they're putting in their bodies and whether it's safe or not. But there's another point of view on this, which is, yeah, that's great. But, the same description could be applied to conspiracy theorists or flat earthers. They are very sincere people. The people who get involved in that kind of nonsense are not people who do it because they think they're putting on a show for the rest of the world. They're not trying to be stupid. They're not trying to be bad critical thinkers. They're really putting their best foot forward to try to make sense of the world in the best way they know how. That doesn't mean they're right. And the intention to be right, the intention to do good, isn't necessarily any guarantee that you're going to be right or you're going to be good. And when it comes to the anti-vax movement, which is a thing, you can find Facebook groups, you can find social media groups, you can find in real life groups, you can find meetups, you can find community in this, you can find all the sort of check boxes, including local and national leaders and propaganda and websites and merch and all kinds. The whole thing exists in the anti-vax world. This has been a problem for decades. It's not like this is a new phenomenon. I'm sure there were people who refused to take the polio vaccine.
But I don't think it was as many.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it was. I think there's always a fringe, a lunatic fringe, we could call it, right? An edge of the society sort of group of people who just refuse to get along and pride themselves on it. And I get that. That's part of the experience. But what we have here, the case I'm sort of presenting here, is that we have cult-like aspects of this, and I'll call it a cult.
Yeah.
And it's destructive. It's destructive to our society, to us recovering from this pandemic, to people getting better. And we're seeing now video. I've seen 3 in the last 24 hours of people literally laying in their hospital beds, recovering or dying of COVID. Right there, and proudly talking about how they did not get vaccinated, won't get vaccinated, wouldn't get vaccinated, wouldn't prevent this from happening to themselves because those vaccines are so horrible, so awful. And all I can do is look at, all of the anti-vaccine propaganda and think, God damn, that is some effective propaganda. That is really, really good propaganda. That is really doing a good job. And it so upsets me because it's a matter of life and death. Scientology, the Moonies, the Jehovah's Witnesses are generally speaking not matters of life or death. They're matters of extremism and financial rapaciousness and sometimes sexual assaults and sexual nonsense.
Emotional abuse.
Yeah, all kinds of emotional abuse. But we do not really get to matters of life or death when we're talking about something like Scientology. When we're talking about vaccinations, we are. And we're talking about these variants now, this Delta variant and these other things. I am not an expert on this, but I look at the headlines, I look at the stories, I look at the individuals involved, and I go, wow, people are not only dying of this, but we're extending the pandemic. We're extending the problems. Yeah. We're going to have another spike here in the U.S. where I guess we're in the middle of it now. And I can only look at this anti-vax movement and go, well, I think these guys are a big part of this problem. And so when you ask me about the top 5 cults, that's the first thing my mind goes to, and I really have a problem with that. Yeah, over 90% of the people hospitalized from COVID are unvaccinated. That is a startling figure, but of course a completely sensible one to anybody who thinks with, how science works. It's like, yeah, the vaccinations are doing their job. So all these people who are running around dying right now, insisting that the vaccine is dangerous and horrible and will kill them, they're idiots. They're dying, and
They're
they
dying
are saying
anyways.
this,
I mean, you're gonna die anyway. You might as well get the vaccine.
Exactly. So there you go. Right? Yeah, exactly. Fuck it. We're doing it live. That's right. That's it. I am Bill Riley repeated. That's right, John. Thanks for that. Okay, so that's my rant and soapbox on the vaccines. I really don't want to, waste any more time on that. But I don't think it's a waste of time. But I'm very, very, very upset about it because of the needless loss of life. I acknowledge I am overly empathic. I am overly caring about the lives and well-being of other people. I really am. It really, really, really gets to me. And
I especially like young children, because they still can't get vaccinated yet. So if you have young children and you're not getting vaccinated, then you're putting your kids at risk. You're putting their friends at risk.
Exactly. And I'm not trying to alienate people. And I know that I get so upset that I end up doing that. And that's even more upsetting to me. So it kind of gets a little, cyclic for me, because I don't want to piss people off or call people names, but I just get so upset. And it's just kind of really hard for me not to, because I just care too much. That really is what's at the heart of it. It's not, I don't want to lord or dominate over, other people. I don't want to be like, well, I'm right and you're wrong. And that's the whole basis of why I'm doing this. It's not about that. It's about, I want you to live. I want you to have a good life. I want you to succeed. I want you to flourish and prosper, as L. Ron Hubbard would put it. I want you to do well. And dying isn't part of that picture, and needless death. Darwin Awards are the worst possible way to see people go. It's always just such a waste. You're just like, my God, man.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? All right. So enough about that. As far as other top 5 cults, well, of course, the Trump cult right now is kind of big, right? Kind of a problem. Definitely in the media, definitely in the news. The whole big lie that's being pushed, the false election, the election was a fake, and Trump was actually the winner. And now he's even said that Democratic postmen, that postal workers who were delivering the ballots, who were Democrats, were trashing the Republican ballots. I mean, it is so easy to just make shit up and just throw it out like a dead fish on the table. And
we know as Coloradans, we have vote by mail here. We've had it for a long time. They just mail you a ballot every election. And it's like, there's no way a mailman could get away with that, is pretty much.
Well, imagine the mechanism in order to make that happen.
Yeah.
So somebody
to make it impactful.
Somebody has the voter rolls. Okay.
Yeah.
So somebody gets all the voter rolls of who's registered for what, prints it all out by geographic area for each postman, by name alphabetically, one assumes, or by address, distribute it to all the postal workers. Or at least all the Democratic ones. So now we're going to somehow narrow down who all the Democratic postal workers are. And then we're going to sit them down one by one, or maybe in our group secret meetings in the basement down at the Dem Hall.
Those liberals in their secret meetings.
Yeah, we're gonna brief them all in secret, distribute these lists of who on their routes are Republicans.
Yeah.
And then we're going to make sure that we're going to commit the federal crime of destroying all of their ballots, right? Which is not only a federal crime in terms of mail distribution or mail delivery, but it's also a federal election crime.
Yeah.
And we're going to convince all the postal workers around America to do this. I mean,
to risk jail and whatever else might happen to you for doing that,
Right. And then you hear this stuff and you just go, what? I mean, he just gets away with saying this stuff as though it's no big deal. And people believe him. because they don't even think through what I just said. That just the thought of how would you actually make something like that happen? You know, it's not necessary. You don't have to think that way in order to be in a cult. And in fact, being in a cult is great because you have the comfort and ability to not have to think. You don't have to exert yourself. It's the path of least resistance in so many ways, to get onto a thought train and just let it take you wherever the movement goes. And that's, you know, that's what it means to ride in a cult. And there are just way too many people who just have this, I don't know, you know, it's a lot of different motivations, I guess, but that Trump cult is a thing. And it's gone beyond just politics. I mean, it's kind of all encompassing in the same way I think of Sharia as being all encompassing. It's a rule book for life. It's not just about what you do at worship. And that's what Trumpism seems to be. And it's just tragic. I'm just watching this freight train fly right off the edge of a cliff. And it's just, it's horrifying watching that. So anyway, so that's a bit of another cult that's on my mind right now. As far as other top fives, NXIVM's pretty much gone. You know, Scientology is pretty eensy-peensy tiny at this point, not really much in the news, although that's going to change with Danny Masterson's case when that starts going.
When that goes to court.
Yeah. And those are the ones that are on my mind right now. I mean, everything else I could say on that might be a little too arbitrary, you know.